Blues. I'm totally enraptured by the relationship of a great orchestra backing up a rock band as they go through their song process, and you've got the presence of the orchestra, this great amplified sound that an orchestra gives you, man. Wow. Now, I asked that question earlier in part one about what do you think of the presence of the orchestra in rock and roll. Do you think it has a place? All that stuff. But at the same time, here's another question though. Do you feel that many other bands, rock and roll bands, could have or should have used the orchestra as a backup element? Do you think that it would have actually, been more beneficial, helped them more? Should rock bands have used the orchestra a little bit more as their backup? What do you think of that? Now, I'm asking this out of ignorance because I can't, off the top of my head, think of more than two bands that used orchestra. I know that there's more. But that's kind of like what I'm exploring now, this new element of classic rock, where it's a fusion between a classic rock band and the orchestra. That to me sounds like a great relationship, a great marriage, something that I would totally be down for. And, just listening to these two parts of Days of Future Past, I'm all in. And I think that just from that alone, the Moody Blues done themselves really well. If there's nothing else that they're known for in history, it's really incorporating very well their talents with that of the sound of an orchestra. 2 thumbs up, man, if I was a reviewer. So you know what I'm going to do here? This is the end of part 2. I'm going to attach the review at the end of it as a whole body, and then down the road we'll see once it goes up on YouTube what happens. But I'm going to put a point break in here, and then I'll be back and I'll just keep the review, or part 3, as a completely separate video, but a separate part. So this is my point break. So let's break for a sec. I'll be right back. Okay, everybody, here we are, man. We are back, and this is the review portion of Days of Future Past. Wow, what a fantastic experience. What a great listening experience. This is an album where, man, you put on the cans, you chill out, turn off the phones, no distractions, and you just chill out. Any kind of annoyances, any noise, any kind of thing that'll just distract your focus, get rid of it and just put this on. Fantastic, man. It just takes you on a journey. Days of Future Past. So, yeah, man. The big theme about this whole experience is that it's as if I'm discovering something new, in a sense of the orchestra fused with the classic rock band. What a fantastic marriage. Instead of just the instrumentals, now you've got vocals, you've got harmony, you've got instrumental solos from the rock side, and then it's being infused with instrumental solos from the orchestra. Man, I'm telling you, that is a really excellent way to go. My only question now of the Moody Blues in general is, have they done more like this? Is there a lot more? Or are there other bands out there that have actually done something to this level? The only other band that I can think of is Supertramp, but maybe not even to this level. I don't know. It's just my impression, and it's just off the top of my head. I'm sure there's more, and I'm sure you're going to have some more examples for me. So let's do a read, man. Let's definitely get into some background here and some history of how this album came to be, how the artists were inspired, what they had to go through to get that to us finally. That sort of thing is what really gets me, and I love learning about this sort of stuff. So, man, yeah, there's a decent amount of information here. Not too much, so yeah, it's typical of a review. So, Days of Future Past. Days of Future Past. is the second album and first concept album by English progressive rock band the Moody Blues, released November of '67 by Durham Records. With its fusion of orchestral and rock elements, it's been cited as one of the first examples of progressive rock. Fantastic sound. The album was recorded at a time when the Moody Blues were suffering financial difficulties and lack of critical and commercial success. Their parent label, Decca Records, offered them a chance to record a stereo LP that combined their music with orchestral interludes. Okay, it wasn't even their idea. They decided to compose a suite of songs about the life of everyday man, with the group and orchestra mostly playing separately and mixed together. It was a moderate success upon release, but following a steady radio airplay, particularly of the hit single Nights in White Satin, it became a top 10 US hit in 1972. It has since been listed among the most important albums of 1967 by Rolling Stone. Wow. 1967, damn. So when did the Moody Blues start? I should have read a bio of the Moody Blues just to kind of get more background on them. So they were around, so if this is their second album, so I think they came out in '66. Background and recording. The Moody Blues had started out as a rhythm and blues band, but by late '66, they had run into financial difficulties. New arrival singer and guitarist Justin Hayward said, quote, "We had no money, nothing," unquote. According to the group, in September of '67, they were asked by their record company Decca to record an adaptation of Antonin Dvorak's Symphony No. 9 for Decca's newly formed Durham Records division in order to demonstrate their latest recording techniques, which were named Durhamic Sound. However, recording engineer Derek Vernals disputes this story, claiming that even at the start of the sessions in '67, there was no intent to record a Dvorak album, and that talk of this project did not emerge until the mid-'70s. Decca had experimented with stereophonic sound for classical recordings and hoped to capture the pop market in the same way by interweaving classical recordings with the group's interpretation of the same music. Instead, the band, initially without the label's knowledge, decided to focus on an album based on an original stage show that they'd been working on, and mix that with classical arrangements of those songs. Keyboardist Mike Pinder had purchased a Mellotron, a tape replay keyboard, and written a song, Dawn is a Feeling, as a starting point for a concept piece about a day in the life of everyday man. Hayward wrote, quote, "Nights in White Satin, about the changes between one relationship and another, using bed sheets as a metaphor." When Pinder added a string line on the Mellotron to accompany Hayward's basic song framework, the group realized they had written something notable and a suitable ending for the song cycle. Nights in White Satin. I was 11 years old, and we're in our family room, rec room, with our big ass TV. It's like an 800-pound TV, you know, those big RCA TVs with that crazy omnicolor. Anyway, man, this video comes on, Night in White Satin, and the guy's face was right up here into the camera. The camera never left his face. And that caught me for some reason. I was like, geez, whatever I was doing, I stopped doing. As a kid, you know, when you're a dumb kid and you go right up to the TV and you just sit there all kind of crossed and you're watching, right in his face, I'm right here by the TV, and I never left that TV until that video was ended. That was my first experience of knowledge of knowing who the Moody Blues were, and how they sounded, and my exposure to Nights in White Satin. I'll never forget that, man. But I forgot where the hell I was, though. Okay. Recording sessions for the album took place at Decca Studios in West Hampstead, London, between the 9th of May and the 3rd of November in '67. The band worked with recorder-producer Tony Clark, Varnals, and conductor Peter Knight. The group recorded and mixed their sessions first, then passed the finished tapes over the night for arranging and recording the orchestral interludes. Content. The album's music features psychedelic rock ballads by Hayward and Pinder, and orchestral interludes by the London Festival Orchestra. The band and the orchestra only actually played together during the last part of Nights in White Satin. Interesting. Music writers cite the album as an early example of progressive rock music. Bill Holdship of Yahoo remarks that the band created an entire genre here. David Fricke cites it as one of the essential albums of '67 and finds it closer to high art pop than psychedelia, but there is a sharp pop discretion to the writing and a trippy romanticism in the mirroring effect of the strings and Mike Pinder's mellotron." Unquote. Will Hermes cites the album as an essential progressive rock record and opines that its use of the mellotron, a tape replay keyboard, made it a signature element of the genre, an influential work of the counterculture period. AllMusic editor Bruce Eder calls the album one of the defining documents of the blossoming psychedelic era and one of the most enduring popular albums of its era. Okay, yeah, let's stop there, man, because it just goes on and on and on with a whole bunch of critics praising it. Even Rolling Stone had something good to say about it. So, yeah, man. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm wrong. Yeah, let's read what these pinheads have to say, man. Upon its release, Rolling Stone gave the album an unenthusiastic review. First I saw enthusiastic. Writing, quote, "The Moody Blues have matured considerably since Go Now, but their music is constantly marred by one of the most startlingly saccharine conceptions of beauty and mysticism that any rock group has ever affected." Sorry, man, let me read that shit again. "The Moody Blues have matured considerably since Go Now, but their music is constantly marred by one of the most startlingly saccharine concepts of beauty and mysticism that any rock band has ever affected." Constantly marred by one of the most saccharine conceptions of beauty and mysticism. Yo, y'all, I'm gonna have to look up saccharine because I don't know what saccharine means. Obviously, saccharine is not very flattering because that is, I guess, what they're referring to as a very unenthusiastic review. So, anyway, until I actually look it up and figure out what the hell it means, if you know what it means, do you agree with Rolling Stone? If you know your Moody Blues stuff, do they have a point? Are they right? Are they on point? Or are they, as usual, off and somewhere on the other side of the orbit? Let me know. Okay, and so by 2007, Rolling Stone, which had originally described Days of Future Past as an English rock group strangling itself in conceptual goo, included it in its list of the essential albums of 1967. What the hell, man? They shit on it on one hand, and then on the other hand, they praise it and put it in their best of list. I don't know, man. Anyway, let's stop there. Rolling Stone, you are so entertaining. At least they never bore you, right? So, from what I've heard, I like what I've heard. I'm guessing that there's more to Days of Future Past, and we'll probably look into doing a little bit more down the road. I'll hook up with Fort Prefect and see what else is there from this particular album, and see if there is something that warrants another reaction down the road. But from what I'm looking at, and based on what I've heard, hey man, I think it's a groundbreaking elemental sound, and from what I'm gathering, they're one of the first that combine elements of the orchestra and rock elements. And yo, man, they pulled that off very, very well. Now, okay, I don't know shit about music. That is what probably disqualifies me as a critic. You know, it's only my limited view of things, but I think that it's masterfully done. The sound, the vocals, the harmony, all of that sort of thing was, to me, on point. So, Rolling Stone, man, out of every single critic, and I'm looking at, yeah, so with all of these critical reviews, there's about 17. And out of all of those 17, just one negative review, and that's coming from Rolling Stone. You got to be Bruce Springsteen in order to get a good review out of these guys, man. I gotta say, unbelievable. But I'm not going to get into a Rolling Stone rant. So, going forward, man, definitely I got to do more Moody Blues. It's one of those elements where I wouldn't say that I dropped the ball, but I just never got a lot of requests for it. And the number of requests or recommendations, I've noticed that there weren't a lot of links. And if you don't give me links, I really just don't have a starting point. And, you know, then I'm like, okay, well, do I try and source myself? That never goes well. And if I try to take the initiative and source myself, I'll always usually get backlash like, oh, this was not what I was visualizing. This is not what I wanted, not what I expected. You should have done this. You should have done this. You should have done this. So, man, I'm definitely open to doing more Moody Blues, but please send me links, okay? That would be really cool, because you know, especially a band like this with a big catalog, you know, trying to start off, I might be starting in the opposite direction, not in the right place, all of those different sorts of things. So yeah, man, I'm starting to go by the solid creed: no links provided, no reactions. You know, I just don't have time, really, to be honest with you, to do sourcing and all of this sort of thing. And yeah, every time I source on my own, it just goes bad. So I definitely need links. Opportunity for a good plug there. Yeah, but Moody Blues, just like the Rolling Stones, is a good example of bands that I really got to do a little bit more of. And you know, I know who you are. You know who I'm talking about. Don't be jumping on me saying, oh, yes, I've been the one who's been after you to do this, and this. I told you you should. Don't do that shit. But yeah, I know that I got to do a little bit more of not only the Rolling Stones, but also of the Moody Blues. And I definitely want to research how much of the orchestral element that they combined. And because I really dig that. And I want to look into that. There's just so much in the body of rock and roll to research, to uncover. And this is another element, a good example of that. A rock band fusing their element with that of, you know, an orchestra. How much of that, was that a thing? Or was it just limited to one or two rock bands? Stuff like that, I'd love to know. So if you know your rock history in regards to that, answer that question for me. Kind of take me by the hand and lead me through. Okay, yeah, you know, these guys did this, a little bit of this here, and here. Point out where it was, that sort of, if you know your stuff, or if you have an appreciation for it. You know what I'm asking. Let me just scroll down here before I bounce, man. Yeah, man, so it's basically just what I'm doing going forward here is I'm going to get into a little bit more of the Unholy Trinity, getting a couple of more of the full album reactions going. The Led Zeppelins, it's going to be going into more of their live stuff, and I'll finish off probably most of their live stuff by the end of the year, and then I'll go into a lot of their solo works. So that's those projects that I've got coming up that I want to get onto. That includes Pink Floyd too. I have to get onto the Pink Floyds and finish off Pompeii, especially 71 Pompeii, and then hit 2016. So lots to do where a project is concerned. Yeah, that's about it, man. So quads and those projects that I mentioned, that's going to be my focus going forward for the next little while. My summer project, if you will. Anyways, man, you guys have yourselves a good one. Hope you enjoyed this reaction and review. I definitely look forward to doing more Moody Blues in the very, very near future. So take care. Have a good one. I'll see you in my next reaction. Peace.